Welcome to Behind the Visual, a podcast where I interview the people responsible for putting together, creating, and producing the images and videos you see out in the world every day. I am advertising and lifestyle photographer Mark Hansen, and today my guest is Jami Svay. Jami is a badass hair and makeup person, and you can see her work at jamisvay.com. It's jamisvay.com. I will put it in the description as well so you guys can all check it out. So
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that introduction.
Absolutely. Right. Okay, so how'd you get into it? What made you a hair and makeup person?
Because I sucked as an accountant. No, okay. Not good. I can add.
That's a little bit of a
right. I can add and subtract my money though.
Yeah.
No, I've always been a creative person, always, and I've always been into fashion. I used to do little mini fashion shows with my mom, and when I was like 8, twirling around in the living room. So I just kind of had to first find my place. I originally went to college to be a fashion designer and got a degree in design, and then couldn't get a job. So a friend of mine who has since passed, he was an agent, Randy Montsinger.
Yep,
he said, why don't you be a makeup artist? He said it's like, designing, it's like art, but just on someone's face. And I never really thought of it that way. And he was right. I started taking classes and, building my portfolio. Remember back in the day, you had actual physical books, like portfolios that you carried
I took
around
one to a
everywhere.
meeting the other day, and the art producer that I was meeting with looked at it and went, "You have an actual book?"
Yeah.
Because I haven't seen one of those in a while.
Exactly.
Yeah, I do.
And he said, be a makeup artist. And I think it was the best advice I've ever gotten, and that was 18 years ago, and I'm still doing it and paying my bills and taking care of my family and still loving it.
Start actually doing it? I mean, it's not like he said be a makeup artist. Okay, and you went out and bought a bunch of makeup, and then you were good at it because you're good. You're not just like I've seen plenty who are.
I wish there was some rocket scientist to it, but it really was like that. He said, be a makeup artist, and I started doing it, realized that I loved it, and I just kept practicing and practicing. Even like on my family members, they would come over for dinner, and be like, oh, so by the way, let me fix your brows, let me fix your face, and then just learning how things work. You can go to school for a lot of things, but a lot of things you really don't learn the true art of it until you're actually in the field doing it. And I started working with photographers, just calling each one up that I say, hey man, I admire your work. And you start off with a guy like that saying, hey, I admire your work, you want to work together, and then they're like, yeah, you give it a whirl. And there were some times I messed up and I was like, ooh, I won't do that again. And that's why you call it a test. And then there were things that I was like, I really like that, let me keep doing it. And it was trial and error, working with the right people, seeing who was doing what in my area and saying, I want to position myself to do that, and working towards that goal. And I wish there was some formula I could give you, but it really was that simple, just seeing where I need to be and positioning myself to be able to do that kind of work.
So how did you start getting your first jobs?
Well, working with the different photographers, when they would get gigs, then they would book me.
So how'd you meet the photographers? Was it through Randy? Or?
Some were through Randy. Sometimes I would just do my research. I would look through I'd get a whole bunch of magazines, and I would look at the credits. And then I would say, okay, who's shooting it? Who's styling this? Who's doing makeup for this? And I would look at who was shooting it, and then I would reach out to those people, and I'd say, hey, I really dig what you did in the last month's issue of blah, 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 blah. Next time you get a job, I'd love to work with you. And some people would try me out. Some people wouldn't. They were like, oh, I've got my set person. I don't want to change. And I heard that a lot. And then I said to myself, I hope I'm in a position one day where someone would say that about me. They'd be like, I've got Jami. I don't need anybody else. And then the people that would test me out and try new things, they liked my work, and then they just kept booking me over and over. So just doing my research and figure out who was doing what.
That's nice. Yeah, that's great. It's a little more difficult in the photography end.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure you can't just call up Vogue and be like, "Hey, I liked your issue.
I like that issue. Let me in there.
Let me do it next time."
Do you remember your first job, like the first real? Not test shoot, not just a little magazine shoot. The first job you had that you knew this was a big deal.
Oh, I remember very much so. It was a catalog company called Raging River. and they were kind of like an American Apparel where they just
Right.
did basic tees, and then they would sell their tees to companies to put their logos and stuff on it. So I remember that so vividly because I remember telling my father that I wanted to be a makeup artist, and he was like, honey, you need a job, you need to support yourself, you need a Monday through Friday 9 to 5. And I was like, I can do this, Dad. And he was like, whatever. And to appease him, I did get a 9 to 5. I worked as a receptionist, and it was not me. And then I even remember telling my husband, I said, I want to be a makeup artist. And he was like, if you're going to be a makeup artist, then I'm going to be a rapper. And I was like, okay. I was like, I have to try this. Now,
So were you
like
a
I said,
receptionist when y'all met?
yes, I was
Okay.
working, doing all types of odd jobs.
Okay.
And then, and then I like to rub it in his face sometimes because 18 years later, I'm a makeup artist and he
He's
is not
still not
a
a
rapper. But I remember Raging River was my first job. I drove to Charleston to do the shoot. We only had one car, so he had to drive me there and wait in the car while I worked. It was crazy. And then I remember, I can't remember exactly who shot it, but I remember getting the paycheck. It was $1,000. And
Right.
I was like, I made it.
Was that a 1 day, 2
I got
day, 3 day shoot?
It was a 2-day shoot.
Okay.
And I remember I got $1,000, and I can't remember. I remember running home and just showing my dad, like, look, I am making money, Dad. Like, here is this check. Look at my check, Dad. This is real.
Right.
It has my name on it with zeros. And he was like, my dad didn't say much. He didn't speak much. He was just kind of like, okay, all right. And the rest is history.
Were you nervous? Because I remember my first big job was, I did some studio stuff in New York. It was for a magazine, and that same magazine had hired me, and that wasn't too bad. I was a little freaked out about that, but not too bad. Mm-hmm. The next job I did was 5 days in Miami on location on the beach. I'd never shot on the beach before. The guys I'm getting rental equipment from, he says, do you want an umbrella? Because Tammy's like, you might need umbrellas if it gets really hot to, shade everybody. And I said, so I called the equipment guy. I said, hey, do you guys have umbrellas? He's like, yeah, do you want like the big white scrim umbrella? I had no clue what he was talking about. I'd never seen or used an umbrella. So I'm out there testing Tammy on the beach the day before the shoot, with my phone or something. I have a little digital point and shoot.
You know
when I was
what?
out
Trial
there.
and error. You don't know. That's what I say. You can go to school all day, but sometimes you don't learn it until you're actually in it.
I think you got to do it.
Like you're in it. I remember being very scared my very first job, my very first shoot, because I was in the studio, like testing and working with different products, and things are very different in the studio.
Oh, yeah.
My very first job was in Charleston, outside. I didn't account for elements, so hair was frizzing up, makeup was sliding off the face, and I was just kind of like, what's happening? What am I doing? I suck, but rewind that in my mind. I'm like, oh, I could have used primer, I could have used a more matte foundation, I could have used powder, I could have did so many things, but you don't know that until you go through it, and then you say, okay, what can I do better next time?
And if you don't have somebody that you've worked with before to tell you,
Exactly.
or you don't call it, because I never really assisted,
Me neither.
so I didn't get that whole learning curve I guess you get from being an assistant.
Yeah, you just
I started
thrown out
shooting
in
when I
there.
was 15, 16 years old.
Right.
But so I had to learn. So there were certain things when you went into commercial jobs like that, I was like, oh, that's how that works.
Yeah.
And now, so when I have assistants now, I try and tell them, I'm like, hey, here's what this is going to happen over here. Here's what we need to do here. This is why I'm doing this. And at least try and teach them a little something so they know what's coming when they go out and do it on their own.
Yeah, I would have loved that experience, to have someone to shadow and show me the ropes and kind of, usher me along. But, our business, I can't really, I'm sure it's for photography, but definitely with makeup artists, then nobody wants to teach you because they're afraid that you're going to take their job, which sometimes it happens, it's true. But no one was comfortable and confident enough, and secure enough to say, hey, let me show you the way. I kind of just have to, fudge my way through it. And I'm with you. Now I have interns. I have people that I'm saying, hey, use this foundation, use this concealer, use that, because it was never done for me. And if they end up taking my job, then so be it. Then it wasn't mine to begin
Right.
with. But I'm with you. I would have loved that experience.
I think it's, as for photographers, I think it's changed a little bit. Where I know when I first started, I still had that same kind of thing. I don't want to do anything that I don't want to tell you what I'm doing because I'm afraid you're going to steal my job. I did have one photographer. I worked at a modeling agency, and he came and he was like, "Hey, come here, look at this." And I was just following him around like a little puppy because I had just started like shooting fashion and lifestyle type stuff.
Right.
And he's like, "Look at this," and he held the camera up and said, "Look how this lighting is." And I watched it, and I was like, "Oh, that's how you get that lighting. That's pretty cool."
Yeah.
Okay, so I learned that from him. He was from Atlanta. And I'm assuming he thought I was, nothing and just starting.
Yeah.
And so he would show me, and he wasn't worried that I was going to come take his job, or maybe he was just a nice guy.
Yeah, you never know.
I don't know.
You never know. I took a lot of master classes. Like I would go to Atlanta, I would go to LA, I go to New York and take classes from different brands like Mag, Bobby Brown, because they weren't scared you were going to take a job, And if more than anything, if you were good, they gave you a job. Like my first moments at Fashion Week, in New York Fashion Week, were through Mac. I was taking classes with them, and then they saw my work, and they were like, "Oh, would you like to be a part of our fashion show team, where you travel and you do fashion shows, New York Fashion Week, Paris Fashion Week," and for the designers that hired Mac to do so.
Right.
So if anything, you would get jobs, and that was a learning experience too.
Tell me about that. How was that doing the Fashion Week? What's up with that?
Fashion Week is fast. It's crazy. It's insane. There's no room for insecurity. You just kind of have to do it. You get there an hour before the show. We start prepping for the show. You work with the master artists. They show you the look.
So you don't know the look until you get there.
You don't know the look
so
until you get there. There is no
3 days ahead
practice.
of time.
No, there is no practice. There is no, well, let me wrap my brain around this. No, you get there. They show you the look one time, and then they say, do it. And I learned that there's many ways to get to 10. There's 9 plus 1, there's 5 plus 5, there's 7 plus 3. As long as you get to 10, that's all they care about. As long as you get to that final look, they don't care how you achieved it. As long as it looks like all the other girls down the runway, then they were happy. If they don't care. So, and I would nail it. I may have not done the process how the artist next to me did it, but whenever the master artist would come and approve my work, they'd be like, "Okay, yep, done." And so they were like, "But you didn't even use concealer." Like, shh. Hey, I'm telling about it because you also are working with time. You have X amount of models to get done in seconds before they walk down that runway. So it's like I said, it's about. I think that's how I built up my speed. Is just getting it done and being efficient with my job.
Yeah, that's the nice thing about working with you is it is fast. I'm not sitting there waiting forever on hair and makeup, and you just sit there. Because I remember my first job in New York, where I had hair and makeup person, and I was so used to working with fast makeup artists like you and Heather Hawkins, and then I go to New York and it takes forever, and I'm just sitting there. I'm on set, at call time, and it's an hour and a half before hair and makeup's finished and we're ready to shoot. And I'm going crazy, and I'm not used to it. And all I was thinking was, this is New York. This is going to be faster than it is down in North Carolina, and it wasn't.
There are different beasts there. I feel like in New York, because they are in New York, they don't have to try as hard to prove themselves because they're, they've got that stamp, they've got the label, and they have it, in people's brain that it's New York.
Did you get that going up there when they found out you were from the South? Because my first time up there, I was just doing a testing for some modeling agency, and I walked in, I was like, "Hey, can I have some models to test?" And they were like, "Yeah, I guess," and they gave me some because they had asked where I was from, and I told them I'd called ahead of time or whatever. The fashion stylist I had working on the shoots with me, day 2, I think we did testing for 3 days. Day 2, he's like, when you came in, everybody was talking about you after you left, and like, "Oh my God, this guy from down in North Carolina, from the South, just send him some girls, maybe we'll get something we can use out of it, who knows." And he said, "You actually know what you're doing. This is some good stuff that we're seeing out of you." So
I
it
get
was
that
a
a
shot.
lot.
Yeah, so is it the same thing?
Yeah, oh totally. I get that a lot. Mark, I still get that. I mean, I live in North Carolina because I live in Charlotte because it's affordable, because I don't have an apartment the size of a box and I'm paying thousands and thousands for it. I live in a major city to where if I do need to travel, there is an airport.
Oh, yeah.
And I can get to you through the plane, so
Pretty
it's not
much.
like we're like in the woods, like with horse and buggy. And people would say the silliest things to me when I would work in New York, doing Fashion Week or various shoots or whatever. As soon as they found out I was from North Carolina, they would ask, so do you live on a farm? What do you have to go catch your food before you make it, or stuff like just ignorant ass comments, like dumb stuff, to the point where I was embarrassed, to the point where I didn't even want to tell people that I lived in North Carolina. It was almost easier for me. So I took it off all my social media. I took it off my website. I wanted you to see the work. I wanted you to see me. I didn't want you to see my location, because to me that's geographical discrimination. Just because you live in New York doesn't necessarily mean you're better. Just because you're from the South doesn't mean you suck. Those labels are horrible, and every time I would have to fight through that to show my work, say, hey, don't look at where I'm from, look at what I can do.
Right.
And it happens to me even still. But now I am more confident. Now, before I would hide it and even lie. I remember meeting Sir John, which is Beyonce's makeup artist. And I remember I was working for L'Oreal, and he asked me where I was from. And I remember stumbling and saying, I'm from New York. And then he found out later that I wasn't. And I was like, you know what? I shouldn't have done that. And from that moment on, I said, fuck it. I'm going to tell people where I'm from, who I am. And if you don't want to hire me, then screw it. Beyonce, do you slay? I remember going to her concert. She said, do you slay? She's telling to the audience. And I said, do I? I do slay. And it doesn't matter that I'm from the South. She said in her concert, never be ashamed of where you're from.
Yeah.
And ever since then, I haven't been.
I'm with you. I used to just like hide. If I put Charlotte on there, I was like, I'm New York, Miami, LA, because I shoot all those as local. But
Right.
if I put Charlotte, I would put it at the very end.
Mm-hmm.
Or I'd try and hide it in between there somewhere. And I was actually having lunch with a art producer, and she said, you need to play up the Southern thing. People like that little Southern accent. They like the y'all, they whatever. So now even on my website, my bio says, I say y'all. I'm from the South.
Yeah.
And then I'm local to these. Here's where I work out of as a local.
And
where
your
I
work's
have crews
amazing.
and everything, so you don't have to worry about it. But yeah, it took me a while to get to that point.
Yeah, it does. To be confident in yourself and in your work, to say, this is who I am, take it or leave it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what do you think's changed in the makeup and hair industry since you first started?
YouTube.
Yeah.
Everybody now has a YouTube channel. Everyone thinks they're an artist. Everyone thinks they know. It's one thing to do makeup on yourself, but it's a whole different animal to do makeup on other people and different skin tones and different skin textures.
Yeah.
I can do other skin tones other than myself. I can do white, I can do Hispanic, I can do Asian, and it's about, because that's the true art. That's being an artist. And when you're a YouTuber or a beauty influencer and you're just doing makeup on yourself, yeah, it looks good on you. But when a client hires you for a job, which has happened now, that clients are now starting to not book artists, but book, beauty influencers, and they get to a shoot and they've done makeup on themselves flawlessly, but now it's time to do makeup on Kenya from, West Africa, and they're like, I don't know what you're talking about. So, or vice versa, Natasha from Russia, who is pale as all get out. So it's just, it's sad, because that's what has driven the market, those views,
I've heard that's changing a little bit from some people I've been talking to. They're saying that clients are starting to figure that out.
Yes.
And they're starting to figure out that the
hard
makeup
way.
artist, that's the influencer, or the photographer, that's
Yeah.
the shooting all this stuff, or somebody's got a great, Instagram feed of
Oh, I'm sure you get it too.
that
I'm
when
a
they show up.
photographer. I've got my iPhone.
To
Yeah.
the point where one of the art producers I was talking to the other day said, we now have to ask, do you have this equipment? Do you know how to use the lights? Do you know how to do this? Because we see your feed is nice, but she said she's had some show up and they get there and they don't have anything. They have a camera and they think that's all they need. And sometimes it kind of blows up in their face.
Oh, yeah.
So, and there are plenty of them out there who do an amazing job, but then there's ones, I think, that just put it up there and then the post is so massive on the back end that you don't know. Even hair and makeup, because I've seen hair and makeup where the retouching's been done so much, you don't know what's really the hair and makeup and what's the part they retouch to say this is
I
their hair and makeup.
I know retouching is our culture because we thrive on perfection. I love brands like Aerie that have gone through this whole no retouching campaign about realness, real skin, real
Maybe they took
stretch
that a little
marks.
too far. Occasionally, if you got a zit, give the girl a break.
Oh yeah,
You know,
I mean,
if it's a massive zit or
a
whatever,
little bit,
you
but
might
the
wanna-
stretch marks, the
I agree
lines,
with
it's like
that.
let a woman age gracefully. Because to me, as an artist, I believe in pre-touching versus retouching. Because if I don't do my job and you've got to do it all on the back end, then what's going to stop someone 5-10 years from now and be like, hey, we don't really need hair and makeup, we've got retouching.
Yeah.
So we've got to continue to fight for our position. To say, hey, we are important, we are needed, and give the lady a break, give us a realness,
No, I agree.
like, because I've seen some stuff being retouched where it's like, is she even real?
Yeah, some of the retouching is definitely bad where you see it and you just look at it and you go, okay, there's not even a pore on the skin anymore.
Oh yeah, and it creates this level of expectation that is just impossible to obtain.
Yeah.
Like a woman's looking through this and she's like, oh yeah, I'll never be that. Never. And for you guys too, like, why don't you look like Kim Kardashian? Like, because I don't, okay? Even Kim Kardashian don't look like Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on there.
Yeah.
What's one of your most memorable clients or shoots that you've been on, or jobs that you've been on? Doesn't even have to be a shoot, just the most memorable job that you've done.
Most memorable. I would say it probably is this job I did for L'Oreal back in 2014, 2016, I can't remember, but they had hired me to do makeup for their Step and Repeat. They had a big event where there was going to be a lot of high-profile celebs, and they needed a makeup artist to touch them up right before they would get in front of the Step Repeat, do their little hoe pose thing, and then walk off. And so I was like, and that's where I met Sir John. He was walking by, and and I'm sorry, I liked you. And I remember seeing Eva Longoria that night, Andy McDowell, Julianne Moore, because these are all people that work with L'Oreal. And I remember even Freda Pinto, all of their spokespeople. And I remember Julianne Moore walked across and she's like, oh, I just needed a little. I said, oh, do you need a little touch up? And I remember I was touching her up and I'm just thinking to myself, I am patting down Julianne Moore right now. And she was like, oh, thank you. And I was kind of woozy for a second. She was like, are you okay? Do you need something to drink? Do you need something? I was like, I didn't want to say because I don't work with celebrities. I'm about to faint for a second. I had to be cool. I had to be I do this every day. I chill. And I was like, no, I just haven't eaten. I haven't eaten all day. I'm good. She's like, well, there's some popcorn in the green room. Do you want me to go get you some? And I'm thinking to myself, you're Julianne Moore. I should be going to get you popcorn. But it was just one of those moments where it's like, this is real. This is happening. And I'm like, how did I get here? How did this happen? Moments like that, you don't take for granted.
Yeah.
I'm so
It's
grateful.
good to hear that she's nice.
Super nice.
Popcorn.
Super nice. Thank you, Julianne, for offering me popcorn. You probably don't even remember that, but you did. I was like, you were great. So yeah, that was probably the most memorable. Most fun?
Yeah.
Most fun. I have to really think about that because I'm so well, when I work with you.
Yeah, it's always fun.
It's always when I work with you because I don't even think it's work anymore at that point because we're talking about everything.
More than we should.
More than we should. But it's more like just socialization for the day with adults.
Yes.
Not talking to my kids, but with an actual adult. So anytime I work with you, super fun.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between stills and motion work? Is there any makeup difference as far as how you do the hair and makeup? If you're doing say a commercial or some movie or something as opposed to doing stills?
Working on movies and things like that, I have to be more in commercials, I have to be more aware that it is a 360 type deal.
Yeah.
You know, like working on print, it's flat. You know, I might can cheat and not really do the hair, maybe just pin it up to where it looks good from the front. But when I do movies, I have to know that it's going to be seen all different angles. You know, and make sure that it is real, that it looks good, no matter where you shoot it from.
Okay.
And be more aware.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that.
Yeah. And be
Absolutely.
more aware. Because, I mean, I'm sure you looked at shots in magazine, you'd be like, you know, you turn them all around and there's pins and there's just all types of fudgery.
I occasionally shoot that from behind, like, hey, this is behind the scenes.
Exactly.
Like,
this is what it really looks like. So, yeah, with movies and commercials, I'm just more aware that, hey, they're going to see everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So you got recently, you have a New York agency now, right?
I do. I signed with Creative Management about a year ago, and it's Mark Parker. He's my booker, and he's based in Miami, but he has offices in New York as well. And I just kind of wanted to expand my artistry as far as my goal in life is to do the cover of a national magazine.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care what it is, or international even. It can be Russian Vogue. It could be Mexican Elle. Like, I don't even care. But my goal is to do the cover. And working with Mark, he has put me in positions to where we haven't gotten the cover yet, but I'm getting close.
Yeah.
He's got me jobs with Victoria's Secret models like Shanina Shank and can't think of her name now, just totally went blank, but she's actually from North Carolina. Martha. Can't think of her last name. But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I know you're talking about, but I don't know her last name either.
So he's put me in positions like that to work with high-end models and different bookings. So we're getting close. But that is definitely one of my life goals. That will be a check.
So the agency thing was a good move for you then.
I feel so. Like I said, I've done editorials inside, inside the national magazines, like Essence, Women's Wear Daily, Red Book Magazine, Men's Health, so I've done national really great magazines, but like I said, never have gotten the cover. Right. So it's kind of like, that's like I said, check. Ready.
That's good. Yes, because I know some people who get an agency and they're like, it didn't do me any good. There was no point in it. It hasn't helped me. But it's good to hear that it actually is doing you some good.
It is doing some good. I mean, like I said, it's not as fast as I would like. I've been with them for a year, but it takes time, and you have to build those relationships and prove that you can do the job.
So they help you put together your website and portfolio, or is that something you kind of do and they maybe tweak it for you? Or
my website I've done on my own, JamiSvay.com, which is, as you know, the hardest thing because you never know what clients are looking for. You don't know what job should stay, what job should go. What
I just paid some dude $850 to redo mine.
Yeah,
and showed it to two different producers, and both of them were like, "Nah, you need to."
It's insane.
Change that.
It's insane. You never know what anyone's looking for. So you're like, I thought it was good. I don't know. But as far as like my work on the agency site, they do all that. And and some of the stuff they pick, I'm like, really? You pick that? But I'm sure they have their reasons. I just have to trust them. Like they're the professionals, and see what it does. But I think it's so hard.
Yeah, it's not easy at all.
Because you've got like 18, 20 years of work, that you've cataloged, and you're like, what goes, what stays?
Well, that's the worst part, I think, is because you look at the new stuff, and for me anyway, if it's new, I'm like, this is new, I want to put this up there.
Right.
And I've seen this for 5 years now, I'm not interested in that, but somebody will look at it that's never seen either one of them before and go, oh, this 5-year stuff, I love that. The stuff that you just shot, no, let's don't use that.
Right.
And you just go,
but you're like, this is my new art.
It's the newest thing I just shot. Why am I not able to use
now.
this?
Yeah, like this is who I've become.
Right.
So you want to show the world, because at the end of the day, we're still artists. We still want to, express ourselves. And then someone tells you, that is crap. Then you're like,
I think it's coming from somebody who knows what they're doing, though. My immediate reaction is, why?
Yeah.
I think this is good. I just shot it. I put a ton of effort into this. Why can't I use it? But then when I take a step back and I look at it, and then I look at the other one, I go, okay, I get it.
Yeah.
I get what you're talking about. This is not the direction that we're going at the moment, or whatever.
And then some stuff is just a no-brainer. Like if I do ever get my cover, I'm gonna be 80 years old. Like, hey, this is my cover for Elle magazine.
Well, I'll probably get a text from you later today. Hey, my agent just called. I got the cover of Vogue.
I did it in 2020. It's 2085. You know, like, yeah. I'm just saying, some stuff just does not go. Yeah. If you ever do Oprah, if you shoot Oprah can be like 105. You can be like, I shot Oprah.
Damn
back
right,
in
I shot Oprah.
2005.
Yeah.
Some stuff is not leaving the book ever.
Some stuff. I know some photographers who have stuff up from 20 years ago, and you look at it and you go, dude, come on.
Yeah.
You really need to. I mean, you can tell by the lighting, the coloring, or whatever. So you gotta let that go.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to see stuff. If it looks new, if it looks now,
maybe it's so old, it's retro.
But
again.
no, these are just bad. They're just bad.
It's so old, it's vintage. Vintage photography.
I was flipping through some stuff last night, and I'd met a guy who was asking me if I knew this photographer, and I was like, yeah. So I went back and pulled up that photographer's website, and he's an older guy, and I was looking at his website, and it's like 90% of this stuff is like 1980 something, 1990.
Like, but come on, I mean, I love photography. I have photography books all over my house, and
well, there's some stuff that's classic, but I mean, God Almighty, Herberts
or Demarchier, or I mean, they have pictures like Peter Lindbergh.
Yeah, but
that
when
picture
you're
where the
talking
girls
like
are
Lipton
naked.
iced tea ad where the people, it's kind of a yellowed color, and it's or whatever.
You lost me at Lipton iced tea.
Yeah, so it's like that, and it's 20 years old. You're like, okay,
you're like, okay,
20 years ago you did that.
Yeah, but again,
and the bad thing is, a lot of these people have great stuff. They still have really great. They're shooting great stuff now, but I think they just don't take the time. Maybe they're working so much they just don't take the time to update their website.
I think that's very important in our business because it's constantly changing. People constantly want to see fresh new imagery and what's new. We can blame social media for that, but I feel like being able to constantly have content and keep yourself in the forefront of, your art directors and directors and movie producers, and to say, hey, this is me, like, don't forget about me, so it's hard. It becomes a lot of pressure. It actually becomes more of the job than the actual job.
Yeah, because I think people, they forget about you quickly.
Yes.
So if they like you, there could be a job that comes up and it's been 3-4 months, 6 months since they've heard from you, and they just heard from somebody else 2 days ago, and they're like, oh, I remember that photographer from 2 days ago, or that makeup artist from 2 days ago. Let's see if they're available for this, as opposed to, and then maybe you call up 2 days, 3 days after the shoot, and they go, damn, I just had a shoot. I wish I had thought about you for that. And it's just because they have so much going on.
Right.
You don't stay on top of them.
There is loyalty. There are people that, have been used for years and they're going to keep being used. But it's...
I called a catalog company that's out in Colorado last year, I think, and said told them I really like their work. I'd love to shoot for them. And they said, we've been using the same photographer for 20 years. So I think, if something happens, I'll let you know. And I was like,
die.
Die. Well, I said it. I even said that. I said, well, too late. If he gets really sick, pisses you off, or dies,
I mean, that's how I've gotten a lot of jobs. The lady just, oh, who's that girl again? Jamie, call her.
I got a job because the photographer couldn't they had to reshoot the covers, and the photographer couldn't do it. So they called me and asked me if I would do it, and I said yes. From that point on, it became my job.
Right.
So you never know when it's going to disappear or when it's going to just show up out of nowhere.
Right.
So tell me about this new thing you got going on.
Well, me and my husband, we started we started an investment company. It's called Sway Investments. And we basically invest in different franchises, locally and nationally. So we bought our first franchise, which is an Idolize. It's a brow bar. And they have brows, threading, waxing, facials, lashes. And so that'll be our first investment. He's already looking into other franchises too. I mean, if I could, I'd own a dry bar, a lash bar, and of course for his needs, a wing zone.
Okay.
For his personal likes. But yeah, so it's just an investment company where we, invest in different franchises and just build our portfolio. But this one is a little near and dear to my heart because I help to work with headquarters and create some different ideas as far as content, doing hair and makeup for their billboards, also creating, signage and, things that are visually seen inside the spas. So when I go there, I don't just see a company. I see something that I took a small part in and help build and help love on. So
it's a franchise buy-in, but you had a lot to do with the whole national deal.
Yes, to help it look
branding and all that.
To help with the branding. And so to me, it's kind of like my little goddaughter, you know, like helping it, you know, grow and build and kind of see my stamp on it. So to me, like I said, this one's a little special.
Yeah.
After this one, you know, if he wants his wings on, then go for it.
It stays on brand for you too. You like garlic?
I like the garlic.
I think we like garlic.
You like the garlic? I mean, dude.
I like the garlic, but then there's something that Tammy gets but I can't remember what it is.
Yeah.
It's some kind of barbecue thing.
Oh, you can't go wrong with barbecue.
Yeah.
Messy fingers, but no, it's all good.
Yeah. Well, that's good. I mean, it stays kind of on brand with you being the hair and makeup person.
Right.
It's still kind of...
Right. This very first one is definitely on brand because obviously being in beauty and owning a franchise, like I said, lashes, brows, facials, threading, this is definitely on point with who I am as an artist and I can help build it. So, and then therefore after, we'll see where
So did you tell them you wanted to help with the whole branding, the looks, and that kind of thing?
He hired me to do it. He paid me to do it. At first, I did makeup for his very first photo shoot, which now you can see the pictures inside the spas. And then he said, "Hey, I'm putting a group together of women, and I'd like for you to be a part of the team to kind of help create like slogans and logos and colors and looks." And me and his branding manager, Sarah Massey, and several other women, we just kind of got in there and said, oh, well, let's do this color, or what about this saying, or what about this logo over the lash bar, or, and so I kind of helped be a part of it. So to me, that's really dope.
Yeah, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So like I said, it's like my little goddaughter. Yeah.
Okay, so last question. What is the strangest thing that's ever happened to you since you started doing hair and makeup?
Oh, the strangest thing.
Or can it just be something just weird? Like one time very first time I went to Miami, stayed in a place where if you were with told them whether you were Ford models, you got a room for $50. If that tells you South.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah.
So went in there and immediately sat on the bed, and the bed went straight to the floor.
Oh my god.
Pretty much, or at least it felt like
there was no box spring.
So I was like, hey, it didn't feel like there was. I swear, it felt like you sat in it and you just went almost down. So we moved to a different room, and this one was backed up right to an alley. The bathroom window was right at waist level, and no curtains, nothing. People could walk by, and walk right in. So I was like, can you come put up a blind or something? So they came in and nailed a towel.
Oh, that's classy.
Yeah.
You were staying in a very 5-star classy establishment.
Well, I was 23, 24.
I have to say this, the weirdest, I was working with Ron Chappell. This was towards the beginning of my career, and he's a stock image guru. I think he has like a house in Hawaii now. He's crazy balling. I remember working with him, and I was doing hair and makeup for a shoot, and then afterward he said, do you mind if you stay and take some pictures? And I'm thinking, ew, but it wasn't in my head, but it wasn't like that. And his assistant at the time was a lady, Alma, and she's like, no, we love your look, we just want to take a few photos. And I was like, okay, you guys are cool. I don't feel any weirdness or anything like, because you can feel some weirdness, but it wasn't like that.
Or like a terrorist kind of thing.
Exactly, you're like clothes start coming out, and no, it wasn't like that at all. More than anything, they were putting stuff on. They wrapped me in this African head wrap in this garb. So more than anything, they were adding fabric. So I felt completely comfortable, and he was taking pictures or whatever. And then I remember Michael Church called me. This was like maybe 5-6 years later. I can't even remember. He sends me this picture of a National Geographic magazine, and he says, "Is this you?" And it was me. I don't even know the article. I don't know anything, but it was me in the African headdress and National Geographic magazine. And I'm just kind of like,
Wow.
That is, but I am not from what? So that was probably the weirdest thing. I go in as hair and makeup, and then
God.
I leave,
an African queen.
Exactly, an African goddess.
What's the article about?
I don't even know. I have no idea.
And you had no clue this was being used.
No, zilch. I mean, because you sign your rights away, then you're like, this image can be used and blah 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 blah. We got to read those passages.
Yeah, I had a model release that I could do whatever I wanted with your image. It literally said basically, I can take your head and put it on another body. I can take your body and put somebody else's head.
We got to start reading these the agreements. We just keep scrolling and hit agree, and I'm like, I don't even know what this is.
Because it amazed me that the models would sign it. They would just go, oh,
you
didn't even read that thing, did you?
Yeah. So people, So I am in a National Geographic magazine.
Did you get a copy?
No, because clearly it was several years past, and I was just like, oh.
Well, you should get it from Michael.
That's lovely.
If he still has it.
That's my cover right there.
There you go.
Oh no! So that was hilarious.
Yeah, I'd say yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, okay, never been.
Where'd you grow up?
I wish I
haven't even been to Africa.
I wish I grew somewhere cool like Cape Town or Morocco or something. But no. But those images say different.
Yeah, you might not want to be. I heard Morocco is kind of sketchy. You might not want to be more there.
Might not want to be more there.
Yeah, I heard it's a little sketchy.
I won't go. I won't. I'll let them straighten that out first.
Yeah, that'd probably be good.
Probably. Just wanted some spices to cook with.
You can probably get that on Amazon. Just order that.
I wanted them to bring some turmeric home.
I know you can get that on Amazon. Well, that's it. That is all. Thank you so much.
No problem.
For doing this thing. And if you guys are interested to hear more interviews, to hear more about Jami, if you want to see more about Jami, check her out at jamisvay.com. Again, it's jamisvay.com. I'll put the link again in the descriptions. If you guys like the podcast, keep liking, subscribing.
Yes.
Definitely subscribe and like this thing. Share it with your friends. Tell everybody about it. Keep it going. Thank you.
Anytime.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Bye.